Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit frankdocs.com.
And a very good afternoon, good morning, good evening to wherever you may be around the world right now. Yeah, we've changed the format of the Rendezvous show a little bit today because I will have Nikki Leigh and Frank and Jeff, is it Jeffrey? I think so, yeah, that will be joining us in a moment. And yeah, let's get the show on the go because we're going to be chatting about online and offline dating today. So in the meantime, whilst I get them on the line together with me, here is Jane Bordeaux with Morning Surprise, Samantha Fox, Touch Me, and Rebecca Rain with Voice Across the Air, and we'll be with you right after that.
Hi everybody, I'm Paula Atherton, and you're listening to The Rendezvous Show, where musicians, singers, songwriters, composers, and friends come together to share their music with the world for your listening pleasure. everybody. I'm Paula Atherton, and you're listening to The Rendezvous Show, where musicians, singers, songwriters, composers, and friends come together to share their music with the world for your listening pleasure.
Well, of course, this afternoon, folks out there, we are not going to be playing that much music during the show, as I have got Nikki Leigh, Frank, and Jeffrey together with me here on the show, and we're going to be talking about online and offline dating. This is going to be an interesting show, and I'd like to welcome all the listeners on Spectrum Radio out in the UK, and of course the show is also syndicated on New Visions Radio out of New Jersey. Let's start off with ladies first. Good afternoon, or should I say good morning. Nikki, have you had your coffee yet?
I don't drink coffee, but I'm here, George. I'm awake. Yeah, I woke up and it's 39 degrees. I am awake.
39 degrees. Oh, that's Fahrenheit you're talking about. So that's pretty chilly for you this morning, eh?
Well, especially since I left all the windows open last night.
Oh, that helps. That helps a lot, you know. All right, and let me introduce Frank. And Frank, I think you need to let everybody know out there who you are, where you're from, and what your credentials are.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Frank Kermit of franktalks.com. I'm based in Canada, and I'm a dating and relationship coach. I've been doing this for 15 years in both private practice, and I also work for a matchmaking industry as a coach. I'm the author of over 20 books and over 25 audio programs on the subjects of love, sex, dating, and relationships. I work with men, women, those individuals who consider themselves somewhere in the intergender. I help people in traditional monogamous relationships, and I help people with consensual non-monogamy for those interested in that lifestyle as well.
Okay, interesting. Thanks, Frank. And Jeffrey, maybe you should do exactly the same, please.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate you having us on. And my name is Jeffrey Platts. JeffreyPlatts.com is my website, and I'm a men's coach, and I help men really elevate their relationships, so dating and relationship lives, as well as their purpose. So really owning and expressing their values. So I've been doing personal growth work for 23 years, been working as a coach for almost 7 years, and I've done over 200 workshops and retreats on personal growth, dating and communication. My work in writing have been featured in Huffington Post, Washington Post, ABC News. I've worked with the Authentic Man program and the Good Men Project, and I've been doing this pretty much out of my own just desire to really help men really get out of any frustration, confusion that they have around dating and relationships, especially when it comes to how to connect with women, because that was my own journey. And so so I've been doing this just purely for both out of my love to help the planet really get awesome relationships.
Oh, brilliant. And of course, Nikki is part of the furniture people out there.
Yeah.
George.
Yeah.
George, I have qualifications too, George.
Well, I think everybody knows who you are, Nikki.
Just can I give mine in case they don't?
Oh, all right. Okay, Nikki, go for it.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm here is I'm the host and producer of Ready for Love Radio, which airs on Fame Radio and New Visions. I am a certified love and relationship coach, trained with Dr. Ava Cadell, who's known internationally. And let me see, I've been a love coach for about 9 years. Actually, I just celebrated 4 years as the host and producer of Ready for Love with New Visions, and six months here with Fame. I love the time I've been with Fame Radio also. And I also got into coaching because of the personal transformation of my own life that I found working with Dr. Ava as her publicist, and then just being around the message and seeing the change in myself personally, and then I had to learn more And then once I started experiencing those changes in myself, I had to share it with other people. And then the coaching and the radio show all came out of that. Because, I mean, once you that kind of change in yourself, you've got to share it.
Of course, yeah. And of course, folks, why we are talking about online and offline dating is yours truly chose the subject for today. And the reason behind that, we have a request show. And since I put the email out there via the air, okay, where to send your requests to, I have been inundated, and I mean inundated with various dating sites sending me pictures of very sexy ladies wanting me to make contact with them. Now, Frank, maybe we can start off with you. Do you get exactly the same or not?
Okay, generally speaking, when it's a photo of an above average attractive woman
It's
reaching
not
out
true.
to you. Sorry, can you repeat that?
It's not true.
Oh, well, we can still talk about it. Because that's a great way to spot a scam.
Yeah, I know. No, well, I'm when I say it's not true, first of all, the lady that's in the picture I don't think is real, number one. Number two, I think these various so-called dating sites tend to pick up all sorts of information and obviously want you to join so that you start spending lots of money. I think that's the bottom line to the whole thing. It's I'll tell you what, if I was to send you some of the emails that I get here, you would fall off your chair at home, I promise you.
I believe it. And we have to separate the marketing from the service that they're offering.
Yeah.
When it comes to marketing, they're going to choose the best stock photo images that they have in order to attract the clientele.
Correct.
Doesn't necessarily mean that the service that they're offering isn't legitimate. And they also have to be careful because if they do those from the actual clients that they're serving, they might be violating some form of privacy laws. So they're better off going to the stock image photos that give them permission to use these images.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
That's true.
Sorry, who was that?
Well, that's true too.
Yeah.
Actually, I've got an interesting story about that I can share in a little bit about somebody that I met locally that there is a dating site using his pictures illegally. So you do have to be very careful about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. As a company, any dating company, most people think, well, you should be sending me photos of the people that are already there. Once the company is using someone's photo, there's in Canada, it's called a right of publicity. In the United States, it's called I believe it's called the publicity rights as well. In Canada, it's called right of personality. In the United States, it's called right of publicity. Okay. When you use someone's image to promote your business, they're entitled to some form of compensation. So rather than have anybody just sign up on a dating site and then try to use try to be in a position to sue the company, they're better off using stock.
All right, folks, I have got to reboot my computer. And whilst I do that, let's have a listen to some music.
shadows creep, a full moon fills the sky. A figure stands, he's motionless, he holds the fear inside. Muscles tense and every sense is primed and so alive. Light is shone, will fuel the dawn, but will he win his prize? Primal instinct, animal. Primal instinct, animal. The air is thick, the forest sleeps, but something moves within. The hunter knows he's not alone, so let the game begin. Amber eyes cut through the night, I'm burned just like the sun, and in his chest his heart is beating like 1,000 drums. Primal instinct, animal. Primal instinct, animal. Primal instinct, animal. Primal instinct, to face alone, a solitary soul. He longs to be accepted. A chance to fight for honor all your life. Become a man respected. Take a stand from boy to man. Heaven or your kingdom. Kill, no shame, a sacrificial game. It's a long tradition. Flesh and bones, the territory of home. A recent kill decaying. Black to light, majestic sight. An orange glow in the moonlight. The devil runs, the stars shine on. They dance to a mocking rhythm. Hide and seek, the darkness bleeds. And death is always watching.
I don't need no verdict now. Wait for judgment day, yeah. I'll take the jury and the hanging judge. There's nothing left to say. For 40 days and 40 nights, I sailed to eternity, yeah. Now you are not the only ship, and I don't know the sea, yeah. All that I needed was you. You're tearing me up, Lord, I'm through. You're pulling me back, ain't it true? My time stolen off from me. Slow rain, slowly drowning me in vain. You chained me to a tree. My pain
Hi, everybody. I'm Paula Atherton, and you're listening to The Rendezvous Show, where musicians, singers, songwriters, composers, and friends come together to share their music with the world for your listening pleasure.
Okay, folks, my apologies for that, but we're experiencing a major thunderstorm here in Johannesburg, and there was a bolt of lightning, and my laptop decided to reboot itself. But I've got Nikki and Frank and Jeffrey back. Frank, maybe you'd like to pick up where you got cut off, if you don't mind.
All right, now, where exactly would that be? What was the last thing we were talking about?
The last thing we were talking about was the rights of people whose pictures are being used in the marketing section.
Okay, let's summarize that very quickly, and then we can move on to things like using photos in your online profiles.
Okay.
Just to summarize it very quickly, nobody has the right to use anybody else's photo for any commercial endeavor without permission and possible compensation. That's why dating sites don't use the photos of the actual members they have on there. It's an additional right that they don't have. They will use stock images to best attract the clientele.
Mm-hmm.
And Nikki had mentioned at some point that women generally get onto some of these dating sites for free, whereas men have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
That's because of the sexual attention paradigm, where women are on the receiving end of sexual attention. They get attention very easily. They get offers of sex very easily, so there's not necessarily an incentive for them to pay for a dating site when what they struggle with is to find an actual commitment.
Yeah.
Men are on the projecting end of sexual attention, and as such, have to work to get sex and attention. Men have no problem being offered a commitment because usually the commitment is being offered in exchange for sex and attention.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the photos, for all of the listeners out there who are asking, what should be in my photo? For men, you have to look proud. You don't necessarily have to smile. Crop a photo of a time. There's a photo of you being very proud, feeling a sense of pride. That comes across as confident. Stand tall with your chest out. Anything that demonstrates pride is going to be very attractive. Women, conversely, are told for the best possible photos, and these were studies done by matchmaking companies. Smile, just show you're having some fun, and show a little bit of cleavage. We're not saying to completely show cleavage. There's a difference between getting attention and getting the right kind of attention.
Yeah.
And whatever photo you use, make sure it's a current photo so that when you do meet in person, and that is the goal of online dating, to eventually meet in person, they're not expecting you to look, 10 years younger and healthier and happier than you do now. Yeah. Always use a current photo.
Okay. All right.
So we should.
Jeffrey, any comments from you about what Frank was just talking about?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. Yeah. Well, yeah, the in-person piece is really, really important. I think a lot of people, I always like to say that they're not really online dating sites as they are online introduction sites, and that the real dating actually happens once you meet up in person. So, you meet a person online through a dating site, and you're chatting back and forth for several weeks. Then that might have some satisfaction, but the real kicker happens when you meet the person in face. What is the in-person chemistry like? What is the in-person connection like? You can be introduced to them on Tinder, on Match, OkCupid, whatever, and have some banter back and forth, and that's fun, entertaining and fun. But unless you're wanting a virtual pen pal for the rest of your life, then you're gonna have to meet up in person. So at some point, yes, getting to the in-person meeting is really, really important, because that's what is going to determine the actual chemistry. I know many times, myself and just in other people that I've worked with, you spend a lot of time. The more time you spend on the online back and forth with someone, the more fantasy gets built up, the more ideas of who this person is and this connection and then you can meet this person. You meet them in person for the first time on a date, and then it's different than what the fantasy is in your head of what you had during all that connection back and forth. So just to kind of keep that perspective in mind, that use these sites to get introduced to high quality, ideally people that have similar traits and values as you, but then do what you can to get to the in-person meeting as soon as possible, so that you can get a full flavor for the chemistry.
The dating sites are a way to screen people that you would probably never meet any other way, because
too, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, many of us just, where do you actually? It's an easy way, like I said, to screen people that you're just not going to meet any other way. I've met people on dating sites that live like 3 blocks away from me that I never would have met, or people that are live in the same town that I just never would have run into, So it's a great way to meet people that you just wouldn't have found any other way, So it's an interesting way to meet people, but like you said, it's a great introductory kind of thing, because I don't go to bars. I have no desire to go to bars, and I work online, so meeting people online is a really cool way to meet people in my everyday life, So it's a cool way to get to meet people. But so meet them there, and then connect with them in person, which a lot of people have a lot of trouble with, and then take it from there. But definitely don't stay on the dating site and just chat forever. Meet them. Well, and that would be a cool thing to talk about, with both of you guys. How long should you talk to them online before you actually meet them in person? Because a lot of people don't seem to know when to transition from the chatting to the messages actually meeting.
Well, that depends on the type of dating. Hello?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Do we want to talk about that, or George? Do you want to play a song, and then we'll jump into that, because that's kind of involved.
No, we can carry on with it. Don't worry.
Okay. All right.
I'll take a shot at this. It depends on the dating site that you're using. If you're using a profile-based dating site where there's a lot of information about you, generally speaking, from the time you first make contact with someone with a first message to the time you meet should not last longer than 1 week. You're better off, that's got to be your cutoff. If you haven't met face-to-face within a week, you have to assume that the person may be either trying to scam you or isn't really interested. On dating apps, which are more photo-based, where you're swiping right, swiping left, in order to say yay or nay. Meeting within 24 to 48 hours is actually a lot. Usually, people go to the photo-based apps looking for quick sex, looking for hookups. Not to say that long-term relationships don't evolve from those. It's just that that's not necessarily the target audience that's attracted to that particular form of online dating. You're dealing with, I want instant gratification and wanting to meet within 24 to 48 hours or less. On profile-related dating sites, there's a certain amount of work that has to go in creating and adding information to your profile. So the people there are, because they're investing more, they're likely looking for something a little bit more serious. And although I always recommend the sooner you meet in person, the better, some people like to take a little bit of time just to feel safe, exchange a few emails, but I still say if you haven't met within a week, take that as a red flag.
No, okay, well, Frank, that's an interesting one. But what about if you've got 2 people, one living in the USA, one living in Europe, for example, to meet within a week? That's a bit difficult.
But you can still get onto the phone. You can still do Skype dating, which is just to set it up. You want to make sure that the person who's writing to you, you can identify that person's voice and you can identify that person's face. When you're in a quote-unquote relationship online, which is an oxymoron, you want to make sure that you're actually dealing with the person that you think you're dealing with. In most cases where people are being catfished for lots of money, they don't do the Skype thing. They don't get on the phone because they don't, it may not even be the person of the gender that you think. So if you're writing to someone and you think that it's a woman who's living in another country, it might actually be a man pretending to be a woman, and that's why they never get onto Skype. And you want to have regular intervals. for the simple reason that, if someone is running a scam, they're going to have to get that same person to continue the scam with them.
Yeah.
You're basically saying, prove it, earn my commitment if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, live conversations, 100%.
Oh yeah, if somebody won't get on the phone and talk to me after a few days, I'll have nothing to do with them. No, prove you are who you say you are. Completely agree. It's well, and it's too. I've had people say, well, but you can't make up a fake profile on Facebook. Oh yes, you can.
Look, in this world of technology, anybody can fake anything.
Oh my
So,
God.
so the person, if you're out there and you are seriously looking to date, even if all you're looking is for hookups, if all you want is sex and hookups, you still have to have a certain standard. You still have to have a certain criteria. And part of that is, hey, we got to meet up in person. And you have to know what your own personal rules are. As long as you stick to your own rules, nobody can take advantage of you. You can't be taken advantage for doing something that you would do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, be safe. Be safe and set boundaries and stick to it. Even if you just want to hook up, be safe about it. I mean, that should be common sense for everybody.
One of the questions that I'll get asked by people is, how do I prevent myself from being taken advantage of? And the only way to protect yourself from ever being taken advantage of is to know what your rules are, communicate those rules, and don't break your own rules. Here's what manipulators are looking for. They're looking for people who break their own rules. Because if you're willing to break your own rules, you are a prime target for manipulators. If you stick to your own rules and the person leaves, you've just dodged a bullet.
Yes.
Yeah, I say rejection is protection, right? When someone you think is rejecting you, you're actually getting protected from future heartache and suffering.
That's it. Well, and if you talk to them on the phone and it sounds mechanical or electronic or whatever, that's a red flag. It's real easy to buy a little tiny gadget to change your voice. Okay? So pay attention to that kind of thing. If something feels wrong, that's a red flag. Okay?
Oh,
It's
Nikki,
really-
tell me where I can buy that. I can add it to the radio station so I can become Mr. Innocent.
Well, actually, a lot of sound producers use that technology. When they don't have a huge staff, they'll have a voice modulator.
Yeah.
And what that does is you can have the same person doing all of the station IDs, and the voice is going to be brought in a little lower, brought in a higher pitched. So it sounds like you have different people doing all these station IDs and show intros, when in fact, it's the same person,
It's the same
just having their
person, yeah.
voice.
Yeah.
I've got the app on my phone. Yep, it's real easy to do.
So I've got to watch out for Nikki in the future.
Exactly. She's gonna catfish you, George.
Yeah, I'm getting to learn Nikki slowly but surely.
That's for promos, George.
She wants your money, George. She wants your money. Run.
Yeah.
George knows me better than that. Well, and an interesting point with scammers and catfishers and all that is that, because if you look at those kind of things, and I had a couple people try to catfish me years and years ago, and I saved this stuff because at some point I'm going to write a book about it. And one of the things they do, if you look at the stuff they do, there's interesting little things grammatically, and as an author, grammatical errors drive me insane. But if you look, and an editor, if you look at it, there's interesting little grammatical errors in it. Okay, and they, it would be really easy for them to fix those mistakes, but they do that intentionally. Okay, they do that on purpose, and their thing is they leave the little errors in there. And they said if a person is willing to overlook the little grammatical errors like that, they know that's the type of person that's willing to overlook other things. Okay,
Oh, wow.
so they're screening the person too. They're saying if you're willing to overlook this kind of thing, you're going to overlook other things, and that means you're a prime target for us. So you're being screened when they send you those kind of messages. If you're willing to fall for that kind of thing, you're willing to fall for something else. Okay, so that just a little point. I thought that was really interesting when I read that. It's like, aha, that's why they do it, because it's like, okay, it would be so easy to fix those kind of things in the messages.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's how I saved all those messages these two guys sent me. So I would have all that kind of thing to use for examples when I write my book.
They're looking for a very specific type of target, someone who's not going to question logic, someone who's going to give into the emotion. There's, look, it's an unfortunate thing, but there's a lot of lonely people out there that would rather stay attached and be in denial, holding on to a fantasy, and that's exactly what they're looking for. I remember a few years ago, oh boy, I'm dating myself here, many years ago, I was the target of one of these catfish. And I just remember receiving the initial email and saying, okay, there's no reason why this super attractive woman from Russia would be interested in my profile being stuck here in Canada. You know, as great as my picture was back then, it certainly wouldn't have attracted that. And again, sexual attention paradigm, these women don't need to go across the sea to find attention. So I decided, I want to play this out. I want to see just how far it can go. And I would set up a number of barriers saying, oh, I read in your profile that you have a pet dog. Why don't you send me a photo of you and your dog? And, oh, this is really great. Why don't you send me a photo of when the dog was a puppy? So I'm trying to see just how far they would go, and the person on the receiving end, because they would just skip the request. And I would say, well, before we continue, you have to send me that photo. They would actually go out and send me a photo of a girl who looked similar with a smaller dog. And it wasn't even the same dog. So they're really they're trying to just, okay, let me just appease this. Here's what I found in that profile and in those email exchanges. They used so much hypnotic language and emotional attachment in those written emails, that as badly written as they were, and I knew what they were doing, I was surprised to find that I was still feeling some kind of bond. And this is ridiculous. It's like, okay, I know I'm being scammed. I know the person is not legit. I've set up barriers for them to cross. They've only done it, half-heartedly, so I know that this is a scam. And then came the trigger question, came the crisis moment. After saying, I'm only waiting for you, and I've never felt like this before, and it's just like, and they would go on to describe something, trying to evoke some kind of a connection. Came the crisis moment. There's been this horrible accident, and I need to care for my parent or death or whatnot, or something of that nature. And will you please send me some money? You're my only hope. I wouldn't ask you if I couldn't. And it was the amount was something like, about $3,000-$4,000. And I said, I don't know if I should. Oh, but please think about the connection and so on. And then I said, okay, okay, the game is up. Like, I'm not sending you the money. Who are you really, and how do you sleep at night? Okay, but there's an unfortunate ending to this. When I called them out on it, I started to get spammed.
Oh, really?
Really bad. And it got so bad that the spam was filling up my inbox so much I had to get rid of that email account. So it was a great experiment. I learned a lot, but wow, what a lesson. I had to lose that email address. And this was, many, many years ago, when you only had one email address, not thinking you'd ever have to get a second one going. So it was a pain. I obviously got somebody very upset, but again, the lesson I take from that is, you're not dealing with amateurs when you're dealing with catfish scammers. You're dealing with people who have studied and trained to be able to manipulate. You're not just dealing with somebody who's looking to get you into bed one night and then disappear. These are people that are looking for an ongoing money supply. You are their alternative income stream.
Yeah.
And they're professionals at what they do. That's how they make their living. This isn't a one-time, part-time deal here. So this is why, as soon as you see that, hey, there's something here going on. Look, the general rule is, no matter how great the relationship, okay, even if it's a Facebook friend that you've verified is real and so on, and they start asking for money, no, you don't send money to anybody you've met online, period.
No. Which it was just sad to even have to like tell people, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I can share a story with you as well about that, Frank. About a year and a half ago, I was busy on the radio, and I got this beautiful, and I mean beautiful, young lady of 23 years old making contact with me on Facebook. It wasn't even 10 minutes into the conversation on the inbox that I was being told that her mother is very ill and can I please, send some money across. So I thought to myself, okay, this is another scam, definitely, because you don't start asking a stranger for money immediately. So I said, well, it's very simple. I deal with a company in India, all right, and I can send the money to their lawyers that I deal with on a daily basis, and you need to go and collect it there. And the reply came, no, you must send it to me directly. I haven't got time to go there. I do deal with an international company in India that supplies us with product here in South Africa. So that was not a builder story at all. And, all of a sudden, she disappeared off the scene. And funnily enough, a week ago, she made contact with me again and saying, hello, honey, how are you?
Missed you.
Yeah.
Now, someone probably purchased that list of contacts, so you might be dealing with someone completely different under this profile, saying, oh, let me try it again, let me try. Maybe things have changed, maybe you've since been widowed, maybe you're dealing with some emotional heartache and you're more susceptible.
Maybe.
Firstly, I don't believe that it's a young lady, okay? That's number one.
No.
It's some guy that is trying to scam people out there, definitely.
Well, I would agree with that, because a young lady of 23 years old really doesn't need to work that hard to get the kind of attention she's trying to seek from you.
No, of course not. Of course not.
Yeah.
Well, she's gonna do it in person.
Well, she's going to do it locally. She'll be able to get that type of cooperation and commissions locally. She doesn't need to go online in that way.
Just walking out the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
Now tell me,
Honestly,
Frank and Jeffrey, whoever wants to answer first, how often do you find bogus profiles on dating sites?
oh wow.
Jeffrey, do you want to take this one? Or
Yeah, I mean, you can take it, but for me, it's more like they're there. I think it's just a matter of, I don't know what the stats are. Maybe you have the stats, but I think it's just more of, the more you can use your intuition around this stuff and common sense, and and maybe even asking friends, that you trust. Does this person look legit? And like the things we've been talking about already, like are really big red flags, right? There's no reason for anybody to ask for money. I mean, get to the in-person meetup. That's it. In person or Skype. And if it doesn't happen, like Frank said, pretty soon after you're starting to interact, then move on. I mean, just move on.
Yeah.
All right. My experience with online, there's a lot of bogus profiles. I don't want to accuse any particular company, but dating websites do at times put up generic-looking profiles just to increase the numbers, so that they can say, we have this many profiles. They're not necessarily, we have this many paying customers. So
Okay.
Exactly.
we have this many profiles. And the way to screen to make sure that you're not getting taken by a bogus profile, number one, first figure out what you want and make sure that what you want is realistic. Because if you set an unrealistic ideal, the person has to be great looking and has to have a PhD. And the person has to have money. And the person has to have an adventurous lifestyle, but is also the type of person that really has family values.
Yeah.
Well, look, everybody has this wonderful ideal, but why don't we try to be a bit more realistic? You're looking for someone who's fairly local, who's at least got a job so that they're not going to be living off you, and you're looking for someone that is reasonably attractive, maybe not necessarily someone who makes a living off their looks, but hey, if you can stand to look at them in the morning, then you've got something good going for you here. And the next thing you got to figure out is do you have some boundaries, and your boundaries are your absolutes. So to give you a quick example, some people have lung issues, they have asthma, they have other conditions that make them very susceptible to the quality of the airspace that they're in.
Okay.
For someone like that, dating a non-smoker would be a boundary. I can't be with a smoker, I have asthma, this is not going to work.
Okay.
Other people say, well, I prefer to be with a non-smoker, but if the person smokes, I don't care. That's the difference between a boundary and a preference. What you're looking for is someone that matches your boundaries, and you have to be negotiable. You have to be willing to negotiate and compromise on your preferences. And once you find a profile, you reach out and you say, hi, I read your profile. This was the part in your profile I really liked. That proves to them that you're not a scammer. You're going to quote something in their actual profile that you liked and why you liked it. And if they don't respond, then you know that maybe it's a fake profile.
Okay.
And you shouldn't be waiting on a response. You move on to the next profile you like. And if you end up chatting with 3 people at the same time, great. That means that as of next week, you'll have a date for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now tell me, Frank, these free dating sites that are out there, is it better if you want to join a dating site to look for one that you have to actually pay for, or are the free ones just as legit as the ones that you have to pay for?
Okay, this is going to be a very, very loaded answer. Generally speaking, if the site is a free site that offers a chance to pay more so you can see more profiles, or you can see things like, who looked at your profile, a really well-written profile, and as long as you follow the proper rules of how to date online, you never have to spend a cent. And you will meet people in your area. You will meet people that may be further away that you can date. When should you pay? You should only pay if the site is linked to some form of matchmaking, where there's actually an individual who is screening the applicants and trying to provide a match. That's the only time that I would say that you should pay for that type of thing. We're not talking about just a basic dating site. We're talking about a site that its intent is to match people up for something more serious. At that point, it may be worth the money, as long as they can confirm that there's someone there who is actually matching up profiles and that the matches you're getting are legitimate matches.
Okay.
Other than that, there's enough free sites out there that you can and will find someone. It's not the mecca that it used to be. It's not the business model that it used to be, where men had to pay and women are free. That still exists, but that's because people don't know any better. There's plenty of ways you can meet people for free without having to go to the extra level. Where there's a benefit in paying is that sometimes they'll promote your profile more. That's what you're basically paying for. But again, if you have a really well-written profile where you are expressing what you're looking for in a way that doesn't turn people off, where you are talking about what you have to offer as opposed to just what you're looking for.
Okay.
So it could be simple things like, if you have a pet cat and you want to find someone that loves cats, don't put into your profile, well, I have a cat, so if you're allergic, then you're the one with the problem. You don't need to get antagonistic. Nobody wants to date someone who they have to fight with. Okay, they're looking to have fun, not be dragged down into something negative. And maybe knowing what it is you have to offer. If we make it to the third date, I know how to cook a great meal. I make a fabulous dish of so and so, and if that's something you like, I'm happy to prepare it for you if we make it to the third date. Now you're talking about what you have to offer somebody.
Okay.
That gets the person interested. That gets the person saying, "Oh, I could have this person on a third date." Well, you know what? If they're already talking about what I'm going to get out of this, I'm at least intrigued enough to maybe hold an audition and say, "Why don't we meet for coffee?"
Yeah.
So if you have a well-written profile and you are actively going through it, if all you do is set up a good profile and wait, because no, I'm not going to put myself out there and risk rejection. They have to contact me. Well, the only people that are going to actively contact you when you're not making an effort are going to be the scammers. You got to go out there. Got to say, okay, I've read this in your profile. I really like this. And yes, it might mean you have to answer 10 profiles before you get one response. That's just that's just the way it works. You're going to have to put in the work. And if you're resentful about having to put in the work, well, you're not going to be too successful in any area of life, because there isn't one area of life where you can get away with getting exactly what you want without putting in some measure of work.
Exactly right.
All right, Nikki, you've got a couple of things to ask, I'm sure.
So tell us, how do you screen people online to know if there's a chance of dating them? Because you go on these sites and there's, you put in your parameters, like, distance from your home and what you're interested in and what you're looking for, and say even if only 4 or 5 dozen possibilities come up, how do you start screening people?
Okay, well, the first thing you're looking for is contradictions in their profile. If you see that there's contradictions in their profile, hypocrisies, that might indicate that you're dealing with someone who is not being authentic. And I'm sure Jeffrey would be able to comment on spotting those red flags of hypocrisies. Because it comes up in regular conversation even when you're dating offline. Would I be right on this, Jeffrey?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I appreciate that, Frank. Yeah, basically, one of the number one things I tell anybody that's going on in dating, whether it's online or offline, is just pay attention, and you're looking for, one of the two things is consistency and reciprocity. Like, are they consistent in who they are and how they show up? Do they say what they're going to do? Do they do what they're going to say they're going to do? Are they consistent in how they, they're the things they say, the things they do, as well as are they reciprocal? Are you the one reaching out all the time? Are you the one having to kind of carry the weight in doing 90% of the conversation, on a date, or 90% of the interaction? Are you doing a couple paragraphs to them in your online dating messaging, and then they do 1 or 2 word answers? Okay, well, I would say that's something to pay attention to, right? And you want to look at that, especially over time, right? Like, 'cause a lot of times they may be enthusiastic, and a lot of people have been there, where you do a couple of messages back and forth, in a period of a couple hours, and then crickets afterwards. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, right.
Pay attention, and then and then they circle back a week or 2 later. It's like, okay, well, not really interested in that, because that's not you weren't. Where'd you go? What happened? And so, yeah, I would say, like, definitely paying attention is one of the biggest things, and not just in terms of what you observe in the other person, but also in how you feel when you're with them, when you're interacting with them. Do their comments, are they offensive? Are they kind of sarcastic? Are they biting? Are they, are they self-deprecating to themselves all the time? Is every single joke kind of knocking at their own kind of worth in some way? Okay, cool. Maybe they're not as confident as they think they are in their profile, because they're always doing these, like, it's funny but self-deprecating jokes. So yeah, I would say, like, definitely paying attention to some consistency, as you're saying, Frank, around this, and, like, yeah, any contradictions that you tend to notice. Oh wow, they say they're really into outdoors and traveling and all this stuff, but they haven't been on a trip in 2 years, they said. So I was like, okay, interesting. They say they're really, into health and eating, but, in the photo of their profile, I saw some McDonald's bags in the car, It's like, okay, interesting. So yeah, just paying attention really, really is a key. And as much as you can also, be, going back to the authenticity is like, you showing up as authentic as you can. I always say, let who you are be the filter, so like, if they can't handle who you are, then cool, that's great. Find that out, sooner rather than later, rather than pretending to be somebody. I see it happens all the time. I did this for years myself. Is you put on a mask to try to attract, who you think a woman or a man wants to be attracted to, and then you put on the mask, they're doing the same exact thing, and then only after a couple of months, then the mask kind of falls away because it's exhausting to wear that, and then the real you shows up, and then you're like, oh, I don't really like the real you, and then it's like you wasted time, right? So really, be as authentic as you can up front, and more to Frank's point as well, is like really get clear on what are your non-negotiables, what are nice to haves, but what are must-haves, and then also do a evaluation of those non-negotiables. Like, is this really, really, it's really, really important for me, or is this just something I picked up or I read in a book or something my mom or dad told me to look out for, So, this is, as much as I will say this, dating is as much a personal growth journey as anything else. And to look at it as such you're going to be that much more empowered in the process.
That's one of the things I've said, that even, every time you date somebody, you grow as a person, or you can grow as a person. You should learn something about yourself from every single person that you date. Even if it ended badly, you've learned something about yourself and what you need and want from the next person that you date. So it's amazing what you can learn about yourself. Well, and something about what you said about, look at the person's profile and then look at them when you interact with them. And it's also possible somebody else wrote their profile. So you might want to make sure that what they're doing and saying actually matches their profile. That's always a possibility. And as much as some people like to talk about themselves, make sure the other person is talking about themselves also, because you want to learn about them when you talk to them and when you go out with them. So make sure you're learning about them, and they're not just, getting information about you. It should be a give and take when you're dating a person, not just you sharing everything about yourself. You need to learn about them also.
Yeah. So, is there a genuine curiosity of them towards you and you towards them? And if it's not, then you're going to be pretty much stuck with a shitty dating experience, because, curiosity is one of the things. Yeah.
One of the things that keeps coming up for some of my clients when I'm coaching them is that they'll show me some profiles of people that they're interested, and they said, "What do you think of this person?" And I'll go through the profile with them, and I'll say, "Okay, let's pick out all the hypocrisies." So if someone says, "I'm a single parent, and my kid is the most important thing to me," but then later in the profile, they have to fill out one of those lists, like the top 5 things I couldn't live without. Well, if their kid isn't on that list of the top 5 things that they couldn't out, then that's an incongruency, okay? That's a hypocrisy right there. Now, they might be thinking, and look, let's assume now we're dealing with a real person who's just not online dating savvy. They might just figure, well, I said it in the profile, why do I have to say it again? And, well, the reason you have to say it again is to prove that you are consistent, that if you're going to start off by saying your kid is your number one priority, and then you're asked later on, what are things you can't live without? Your kid should be on the top of that list, if for no other reason than to prove that you are trustworthy. And by making that kind of an error, even if the person doesn't intend to make that mistake, that's one of the things that you can get in coaching for an online dating profile. If somebody says, look, I'm a really easygoing person, but then later in the profile, they're talking about how, well, if we go out, there's no way that we're going to go just for a coffee. It has to be something special if I'm going to leave the house. Okay, well, then you're not really that easygoing.
Yeah.
These are the things that we look for as a hypocrisy, to say, don't tell me what you think I want to hear and then tell me the way you really are. Just tell me who you are. I'll figure out if I still want to date you or not.
That's
Okay.
it.
So those are the types of things that we're looking for. That's actually one of the advantages of online dating. Because if a really well-written profile comes up, you already have a feeling of what a relationship or what a date with that person is going to be like. So I like online dating for this reason, especially the profile-based online dating sites. Because you have an opportunity, if you know what you're doing, to put together a solid profile that is going to definitely give you the audition. And that's all it's for. As Jeffrey was saying, it's an introductory.
Yeah.
You're looking to get an audition. The goal is not to get attention. You're not there trying to get thousands of people looking at your profile. You're looking to get those people who can best give you the kind of dating experience you want. It's just there to say, hey, I want to transition from this to dating in person. I'm not looking to get attention. Profiles that are written to get the maximum amount of attention, well, yeah, you're going to get lots of attention, but attention doesn't necessarily translate to something more serious. One of the things I teach is fun does not equal fulfillment. So you're getting lots of attention, you're having lots of fun, but fun does not automatically translate to fulfillment. And if you're looking for dating, if you're looking for relationships, you're looking to feel some level of fulfillment.
Yeah.
Now, I know both have answers to this question. What do you think is the biggest obstacle that people face online dating?
Jeffrey, you want to take this one first?
Well, I missed the question. Kind of cut out. What was the question?
What do you think is the biggest obstacle that people face with online dating?
Well, I will say, for me, the biggest obstacle I will actually say is if you zoom out, is doing it as your sole source of dating. Like if online dating is your only tool in your toolbox, and you are not doing the things that make you have a well-rounded life in general, and you just, it's really easy to sit on your phone and sit on your computer and just swipe and type and message and all these things and interact. But if you're not out there living a vibrant life, and in addition to going to the people, surrounding yourself with the people, places, and environments that really make you feel alive, then you're doing yourself a disservice, right? Because you're putting all your eggs in one basket. So it's not, so to answer your question, it's more like, yes, online dating is a great resource, and it is a resource. It should not, I don't think, be the only resource in that. And so I think, a lot of times, if you're say, let's say, for example, you're really introverted and you oh, cool, I can be online dating. I can just really, write the perfect answers, and I can curate a perfect profile, and then cool. But if you haven't done the work to actually then develop, some social skills to get better at connection and conversation, if you haven't really studied anything around communication or sexuality or anything like that, in addition to just the online stuff, then like I said, like the dating starts when you meet the person in real life. And if you're frozen with anxiety and don't have the comfort and the ease in socializing with people in real life, then yeah, it's going to be a shitty dating experience. It's not a magic pill, I would say. The online dating. So I think people coming in with that realistic or grounded perspective is going to be the best asset, because you're going to be like, okay, cool, online dating is great, it's awesome, and I potentially might meet my partner, but I've got to diversify my portfolio, if you will.
It's just one part of the process. I mean, it's not the beginning and the end. It's one part. So if you think that online dating is going to be everything, if you get on an online dating site, you're going to go from meeting somebody to be married, you're missing it. There's a whole lot of other steps in the process. Totally. Well, and I've had people ask me, they're like, well, how else can I possibly meet somebody? Understand that even if you're on an online dating site, or if you're on 20 online dating sites, still keep your eyes open for other opportunities to meet people. You can meet somebody absolutely anywhere. So if you're at the grocery store, have your eyes open. I've told people, when you're out and around and doing things, just say hi to people. Just get in the habit of, if you see a person, say hello. Just get in the habit of doing that.
Oh, Nikki, you could get slapped, eh?
Now, George, I didn't say leer at people. I said say hi.
Well, the thing is, think about it. We're here as living things to people can connect and have relationships without online dating. Like, online dating's been around for 20, 30 years, and or some form of it. And people met all the time without a computer, without a screen. So it's not a requirement at all.
Wow, so much here we can comment on. To respond to George about sometimes you can get slapped. Actually, there are. Well, he's got a point, because there are places in the world, in some cities in the UK right now, where approaching somebody to say hello could get you fined.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're trying to crack down on the amount of unwanted attention that some women are getting in that city. So now even going up to somebody and saying hello and trying to strike up a conversation could get you into trouble. So, we have to be mindful of the area that you live in. This show is being heard around the world. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if there's any rules in your particular area that says, no, you're not allowed to talk to somebody because it's forbidden, let's be mindful of that. Where people are now is that most people connect with their phones before they learn to connect with other people. So we're dealing with an upcoming generation that is used to the instant gratification. They don't have to go to libraries anymore to research something of interest. They can find it on the internet within a few seconds and a couple of searches and dozens of websites that will cater to it. Yep. Now you can make those type of things in almost every area of your life, except for legitimate relationships.
Okay.
It means that it's based on another human being, another separate agenda, and it's going to get more difficult to connect. So for people to go out there and meet people, we're talking about how at one time you had to be social with your local community as a means of survival. People don't need people to survive that way anymore. I work from home, and regardless of the type of work that I'm doing, there are some times when I realize I haven't left the house in 2 days because, when it comes to groceries, I can have it delivered.
Yeah.
When it comes to anything that I would need to go out and buy and purchase, I can have it delivered if I really wanted to. If I'm talking about having to make a living, I can do it from home now. It's this wonderful, and believe me, I have no regrets. I think it's great. I get to be home in case there's an emergency at my kid's school. Mr. Kermit, you have to come in and pick up your kid. Your kid is sick. Well, working from home gives me that flexibility, and I love it.
Yeah.
But there's that trade-off. And we're missing the social ties that we all who grew up before technology, we take it for granted. That's why we can say, well, you can meet people anywhere. When you're dealing in a society that makes it more difficult to meet people anywhere, now it becomes something we have to be proactive about. Let's also add one more thing to this. 50 years ago, the statistic was over 30% of couples met at work, because you would go into work and then you might meet up with a coworker, and you're no longer in school, or you've been working for a few years and takes up the bulk of your time. You're doing overtime in whatever job you have. You're going to meet somebody at work and pair up. Nowadays, depending on where you live, there are rules that say you're not allowed to engage a coworker.
Correct.
Without first going to the human resources director and saying, okay, look, this person and I have entered into a relationship. Because of different problems that can come up in the workplace when a relationship or dating goes south. Yeah. So there are some obstacles to meeting someone, and it's unfortunate that there are. This is why a lot of people feel online dating is their only option. Well, I can't date anybody from work because if something goes wrong, there could be a problem. I can't date somebody from school for the same reasons. And you end up saying, okay, well, I got to go someplace where people are open to dating. So you're looking at different forms of introduction services. Speed dating is one of the ways I personally like it. You're face-to-face. You're talking for 10 minutes with somebody. The majority of them are looking for the same thing you are, and they're all nervous as well. Different introductory services, events held specifically for singles. And if you don't have one in your area, start one. But you're going to have to be proactive. You're going to have to put in the work. And then there's online dating, which fits in with the way a lot of people live. I'm not in a position to be going out as much as I used to. And like Jeffrey says, it can't be your only option. You still have to go out there. Here's an idea for everybody who's listening. Okay, I did this with a few friends of mine, and it always had great results. You host a singles party, and here's the rule: whatever, and again, this is for heterosexual, heteronormative audiences. If you show up to the party, you have to bring somebody with you who's of the opposite gender. That keeps the numbers even.
Okay.
So if you're going to a singles party and you're a guy, you have to bring a single girl with you. If you're a single girl going to this party, you have to bring a single guy with you. And usually the rule is, did you ask somebody out and they rejected you? Yeah, perfect. That's who you bring. Because if they didn't want to date you, maybe they'll date one of the other people at the party, and the same trade-off. And that has worked. We did this about 3 or 4 times, and then there was no point in doing it anymore because everybody, or the majority of people, had paired up with somebody who was a friend or an ex or someone who had rejected somebody else who was at that party. So there are definitely ways to meet people, but you're going to have to be proactive.
Okay. All right, here's a question for all three of you. Now, folks out there, understand, Nikki said she doesn't go to pubs, so don't even go and try and look where Nikki is in Virginia, okay? Let's say, for example, you walk into a pub and you see a beautiful young lady and there's no restrictions, that you can't make contact with them or anything like that. How would you go about drawing attention from her to yourself, number one, okay? And number two, how would you know that once you have made contact that she could be interested in you?
Jeffrey, do you want to take this one?
I was going to say, hey, do you want to take it if you want to start?
I'm happy to take it, but I think
Go ahead.
But I think your background is better suited to this question.
Cool, thank you. So well, the first thing is there's no such. I mean, for me, I personally am. The bar club scene is such a high intensity environment. Especially with women. They have their defenses up. They're there to have fun and party and have a good time with their female friends. Maybe to meet a guy, but it's just, because men are tend to be really, really aggressive and assertive in those environments. Women have their defenses up as well, and so when I coach my clients that are men, my male clients, I tell them, forget about that. If you really if you would genuinely like going to a bar and a club, go to a bar and a club. But the question I always ask is if you went home at the end of the night and you had 0 numbers, no interactions with women, would you still be going to this club or to this bar? Because if not, then that means the only reason you're going is to meet women. And if that's the case, then let's find some better, higher probability places to meet women, right? And so they're not going to have their guards down. So that said, places like, yoga classes and dance classes and, workshops and things like that. But in general, whether it's Starbucks, I always say, it's just simple. The simplest line is, hello, my name is, Jeffrey. What's your name? Literally just, the simplest thing. There's nothing about, doing, I was involved in the PUA community for a longest time. And, a lot of that, at the time back in the day was around, learning lines, getting some openers, all these things. And you ask these questions of, that I never really was genuinely interested in, but I would ask them anyways because they were hot topics that I could open a woman. But it's I say lead with your interest, which is just saying, hello, my name is Jeffrey. What's your name? And then, and again, the whole pay attention concept comes in. Pay attention. What's their response? Is she cold? Is she busy? Is she on the phone? Does she have her earbuds in? All these different factors. Is she responding? Is she reciprocating? It's painful for me when I see, a guy, in line at Starbucks behind me talking to some woman, and he's like doing 99% of the talking, and that's one of the biggest skills I think that men and women need to know is like being able to discern the energy of disinterest.
Okay.
Yeah. Someone is not interested in you, to be able to be aware of that and move on. Whether, it goes for both dating, but business in general, sales, it doesn't matter, right? Like if they're not interested, move on. And so, and it baffles me sometimes when I see people, women and men, where like they're bending over backwards to make this conversation or this interaction happen. Mm-hmm. And it's just, and there's a lot of factors that go into that, but really it's just cool. Say hello, introduce yourself, smile, not in a creepy way, but show some kind of warmth, and see what the interaction goes. And people will say, "Well, what do I talk about? What do I do? All these things." And the thing is, you will always have something to talk about because you'll always have something to observe, and there's always something to observe in the person, in her, in the woman. Interesting bracelet. What's the story behind that? Or there's always something to observe in the environment. Oh, it's really packed. Never seen a line this long. It curves all the way around to outside the store. Mm-hmm. There's always something to observe yourself, even like, oh wow, I'm noticing I'm really nervous, as I'm talking to you. Interesting, or so there's always something to comment and observe and notice and get curious about with whoever you're with. This goes for friendships and dating. But so I'm a really big fan of like just bringing things back to their basic, most simplest, ideas, simple process, and bringing that authenticity to the situation. So that's my quick answer, my long answer actually to the short question around that. And the last piece I'll say is, which I alluded to a little earlier, is like go to the places, surround yourself with the places, activities, and environments that have you feeling more alive. Because the more alive you are, the more magnetic you are, and the more magnetic you are, the more attractive you'll be. Not just attractive physically, but attractive energetically as well. People will be wanting to approach you because, wow, you're having a good time. You're enjoying yourself. You're curious about the environment. And so I say, if that happens to be bars and clubs, keep doing that. If it doesn't, then maybe find something else.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Frank,
good one.
Anything?
Yeah, I got some stuff to add. Using the specific example that George brought up, you're in a bar/club, you see a very attractive lady you want to approach, and you want to make sure that when you're talking with her that you do acknowledge if she is or is not interested in you. I'll start off by saying that I'm not a very attractive guy. I've always been a big, heavy guy, and that means I've had to calibrate the way I'm going to approach a girl in any environment, including bars and clubs. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I've learned how to do is, first and foremost, make eye contact. And once you make eye contact with her, give a little nod with your head, as in a, hey, how's it going, or hello. If she responds favorably, she could just be being polite, or maybe she's open to you striking a conversation. So that would be the first thing.
Okay.
Now, there is a theory that says, if you make eye contact and she looks away, maybe she's not attracted to you, or maybe she's just shy. She's not comfortable holding eye contact. She might be getting nervous, so you should approach anyway. I'm a believer in the second one. If you've made eye contact, okay, now she's seeing you there. When you do the approach, and again, I'm calibrating to the fact that I'm not a really great-looking guy when I go out there. I want to make sure that they see me coming. I don't want to show up behind someone, tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, how's it going? And they turn around and they see a guy that's 3 times their size.
Yeah.
I don't want to scare anybody. Although, a little bit of fear in getting the heart pumping does have its advantages. It's not the method that I personally like to use. So I'll approach them within their peripheral vision. I want them to see me coming. So once I'm there, I start striking up a conversation, and I will talk about something that, like Jeffrey says, is observable. Really great point right there, Jeffrey. Where it could be anything, the environment, what she's wearing, and just so you know, that first line isn't going to make or break you. Okay, it's a conversation starter. You can just go up and say, "Hey, how's it going?" And you could even use the cheesiest of lines of, "So how often do you come to this place? I've seen you here, never seen you." Prior to approaching, one of the things I would look for to see if she's there alone or if she's there with friends. Because if she's there with friends and I don't know what her situation is, maybe she's seeing some guy, maybe there's a guy in her group of friends that's interested in her, I want to at least know, is she attached to any groups of people there? And if she is, it'll change the way I approach. I may not make physical contact right away. I may not put my hand on her shoulder or her arm in conversations because I have to be mindful of her reputation. And if I do see that she's there alone, and maybe she's looking around, maybe she's waiting for somebody, but if she's there alone, chances are she's there to meet someone, and that someone may as well be me. People don't go to bars and clubs to be alone. They can stay home for that.
Yeah.
So even if they're alone, they don't go out to places. They could go elsewhere and be left alone. They go out so that at the very least, even if they are alone, there's still people around them, which signals they would like to connect with somebody. So the eye contact, they see me coming, I get there and I strike up a conversation. Just this is based strictly on my experience, no theory here. When asked the question, how do you know if the girl likes you? The answer is, did she have sex with you? That's just it, okay? How do you know somebody likes you? Are they having sex with you? Yeah, then they like you enough. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is because as a guy who entered into this not being very good looking, I remember talking to some women, being with some women who just didn't give me a clear indication if they liked me or not until we were out of that environment alone and engaging in some form of intimacy like kissing. Okay. And it's like, well, they like me enough to kiss. Let's see where it can go from here. So I don't want to discourage anybody. If there's someone that you like and you want to go and you want to have a conversation, fact is, women are just as nervous as men. Men are afraid of being rejected. Women are afraid of being hurt. Yeah. So she might not necessarily be unattracted, but she might be a little worried, like, okay, well, who is this guy and am I safe with him? So it might just take a while for her to, slowly warm up to you and realize, okay, this guy's not going to hurt me, and maybe he seems okay and he's taken an interest in me and I don't know how to react to this, especially nowadays where people will say and do things that have so much confidence and courage when they're being a keyboard jockey and saying anything that they want online, but then when they're face-to-face, they may not have the courage to speak their mind. They're trying to think, well, I want this person to like me because we're face-to-face. So general signs that someone is attracted to you and enjoying the conversation, number one, they'll initiate physical contact with you. And it could just be something like a hand on the shoulder, a hand on the arm. I always like to go first. And I may talk about different feelings in the body through different experiences and conversation. When you get that, when you're doing something you really like and you get that tingling sensation in your hand, and I'll reach over and I'll touch the hand. That's a very, very warm and connected thing. So you're making physical contact with the hand. Now, if you make contact with them, and at some point in the conversation, they make physical contact back to you, that's more than them just reaching out for rapport. That means they're enjoying the interaction. Yeah. Okay. Physical contact, sometimes that there is a sign that when someone plays with their hair or is reaching up and touching their own neck and touching their own hair, that's a sign that they're enjoying the interaction with you. But don't be worried about whether or not the person likes you. The mindset I want people to take through coaching is you want to make sure that that person can fulfill a role in your life, whether it's as a one-night stand, a friends with benefits, a casual dating partner, or something more serious, whether monogamous or non-monogamous. Okay. Focus on your criteria. If you know that you need someone who's not jealous because you practice non-monogamy, one of the questions and conversation topics you can bring up is on anything related to jealousy. and seeing how they react to that topic of jealousy. And if they say, well, I'm not jealous of that, oh, but I would be so jealous of so-and-so who ends up with such and such a celebrity. Okay, I already know now that because this person is jealous, I probably couldn't have something non-monogamous with them. And if they're not jealous about other things in their life, if they're really not into, talking about how celebrity is jealous of this celebrity, is jealous of that celebrity, and they say, look, I'm really not into it, if they get that, good for them. They probably worked for it. Oh, now I have a candidate here that I might be able to live my lifestyle with. Once you go in knowing what your criteria is for the different types of relationships you can have, that's where the conversations that I would encourage people to come from, because you learn about the person fast, and you can screen them out in less than an hour of conversation.
Sure.
Hey, one thing about the body language too, especially when you first meet somebody, if you move toward the person and they move back, don't move toward them again. They're sending you a signal when they do that. A lot of people want their own space around them. So, I mean, I've been around people where they move toward me. If I move back, that's a signal. And a lot of people do this kind of thing. You kind of want a buffer around yourself, especially when you first meet a person. So pay attention to that kind of thing. And like I said, I've been around that they feel the need to keep moving closer and closer and closer. So like I said, when people do that, pay attention to it. It's a signal, and it may just be an initial kind of thing when you first meet somebody, because you don't want somebody like in your face when you first meet them. Give the person a little room. Some people, like I said, just feel this need to be just way too close and in your face and in your space and that kind of thing. So that's just something to pay attention to, and a lot of people. Once they kind of talk to you and they realize that you're not a threat and that you are okay, and especially in a bar setting, because some people come on way too strong in a bar. They'll kind of loosen up and they're okay, and they'll kind of relax. And like I said, like we've all said, watch the body language, pay attention to how they're reacting to you. But just something I want to bring up, because I've had people do that to me, and especially like if you're sitting at a bar and you're on a bar stool, you can't so far without falling off the bar stool. So just pay attention to.
With that said, if someone is invading your personal space and you're not able to move back, that's when you need to verbalize and say, I need a little bit of space here. We should encourage people as well to verbalize when someone is invading their space and they're not comfortable.
Yeah, advocate for yourself.
Well, sometimes they don't pay attention to that either.
Well, if they don't pay attention to that, that's when you call the bouncer over and you say, okay, look, I'm not feeling comfortable here, and that's what the bouncers are there for. If you verbalize it and they're not listening, now we're dealing with a potentially dangerous situation.
I was mentioning that so that people can recognize that without having to be told, is why I was saying that.
Yeah.
So be proactive and not have to be told.
So in other words, Frank and Jeffrey, what Nikki is actually saying to me is the day I meet her in Virginia, she's going to run like hell.
George, you know better. Come on now. I keep telling you to come visit. Come on now. George.
All right, Nikki, I'm going to hand over to you for a bit.
Sure you are, George. I know better. All right. So what are some things that you guys think people should focus on before they go on a first date? What do we need to consider when you've met somebody, you know you're interested, you've already screened them, you've talked to them a few times, you're getting ready for a first date? What do we need to think about? You want to take that, Jeffrey?
Yeah. So you're saying like what do you need to think about from the before you actually go on a date? You mean?
Yeah, you're getting ready for the first. What do we need to think about?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll take a step back if you don't mind. But like the first thing that needs to happen, which I've written about many times, is it needs to be clear that it's a date. You know, and I know that happens, you know, with an online context. You know, if we meet via Tinder or an OkCupid app, it's pretty clear it's a date, right? Like the context of romantic and or sexual interest is there, right? But if if a guy goes to a Starbucks, or you know, a friend that he meets at a party, or somebody that he knows, and says let's grab coffee, you know, that is really, you know, a poor invitation, because one, it's not clear that what the intention is there. What's the context? Are they meeting up for coffee as friends? Are you there to pick your brain for some business idea? You know, what is she showing up as? You know, what's there? And so I always tell all my men, ask her out on a date. Literally say, use the word date, because that makes it very crystal clear that it's a date, and that's going to be, and it's a couple bonuses for that. One is she will know how to show up. She'll know, like, hey, you know, I'm going to dress sexy because it's, you know, it's a date, and I'm curious about you, and she'll also know what she's walking into, right? First and foremost. And then secondly, for the guy, it's tremendously liberating and empowering, because if you ask a woman on a date and she says yes, wow. So between now and the time of the date, you get to kind of like have fun and enjoy that expectation. But if she says no, great. She's just saved you not just time, but money and energy and investment and all this stuff. Because like, wow, cool, you know. And anytime I talk about this, you know, obviously the overwhelming majority of women, you know, love it. They're like, wow, I wish more men would do this, and really just make it clear. And again, as Frank, you know, mentioned earlier, like this is contextual based on maybe culture and geography as well. Like different places have different kind of ways of being, right? Different cultural nuances. So just, you know, if you're listening to this and you're outside of the U.S. or Canada, you know, or perhaps even England, you know, it's just, you know, take that, you know, into consideration. But for the most part, you know, having some kind of indication that it's clearly I am interested in you, and I want to invite you to join me, you know, and let's hang out, let's connect, you know, in that context. So that's the first thing, just to kind of get that out of the way, because I know that's a very big piece that makes the actual date itself go a lot smoother. So, and as far as that, I mean, it's just a matter of, you know, I think both the man and the woman, or, you know, whatever, if it's man and man and woman, whatever the people are that, you know, whatever gender and orientation you are, it's just getting clear on what is your expectation, you know, for the first date. And for me, you know, it goes back to the thing of, you know, paying attention, having fun, you know, being yourself, being present. You know, so the first thing is definitely, you know, your phone should be off, 100% off. I don't mean airplane mode. I don't mean, you know, silent, you know, and just vibrating. I mean off. There's something energetically that's different when a phone is off in a way. Ideally, well, I guess maybe not for the women. You don't want to leave it in your car, but, you know, bring it with you just in case. You never know. But you know, but at least have it with you in your, you know, in your pocket or in your coat or in your purse, but off 100%. So that you are fully present and you're not distracted. I can't tell you how many times I've been on dates, and, you know, I've violated that rule myself many times, you know, in my single days. And so that's the first thing, is like just to really like commit to being, you know, I'm going to show up. This person is taking time out of their schedule. I'm taking time out of my schedule. Let's honor ourselves as fellow human beings that are curious about each other, that are willing to be vulnerable and show up in this context, and let's just be present. And then, because, you know, if you spend 50% of your attention is spent on your phone while you're on your date, you've done a piss poor job of impressing that person, and two, you've not really got a good gauge of the person, because your energy's been diluted the entire time. So anyways, that's kind of like a really big, you know, big one, especially nowadays with our technology and our culture and society moving in this direction. You know, presence is one of the most, you know, rare things, the rarest commodities nowadays, especially in the dating context. So, I mean, I'll end on that note, but I want Frank to kind of have his thoughts as well. But those are my kind of initial takes.
All right. Jeffrey, when you were just talking about that, an old story from a very old mentor of mine came up. His rule is that if he went out on a date with a girl and she pulled out her phone and answered a call while they were on her date, he'd get up and walk away.
Yeah.
And what he said was, we're on a date, we're talking, if her phone rings and she answered it and she starts like a quick mini conversation, he doesn't say a word, he gets up and he walks away. she'll immediately get off the phone, and what he told me was, and I haven't been able to verify this, but I trust him on other things that he's taught me, so I trust him on this. He says every single time the woman would chase him out of the coffee shop, out of the restaurant, and say, "Hey, what did you just do? Why are you leaving?" And he would say, "Look, when we're together, we're together. If I have to tell you to get off the phone, then you're not the type of person I want to be with." And she promised she never would do it again. But his display of that kind of assertiveness, was something that worked in his favor more often than not. So I really, really liked what you said. In terms of what to get ready for before a first date, I'm a believer in having some kind of life plan, knowing what you want long term and short term, and just screening a person on that. And you'll be able to find out in less than an hour what potential the two of you have. And when I say potential, I mean, do you have the potential to be good one-night stand partners? Do you have the potential to be good friends with benefits partners? Do you have the potential to be good casual dating but non-exclusive partners? Do you have the potential to be exclusive partners or in some form of primary partner position in an open relationship? You can find out all of that in less than 1 hour of talking to somebody if you know what you want and you know how to ask those questions. In terms of the first date structure, there has to be a few very key elements to every first date. Number one, there has to be a chance for the two of you to have uninterrupted connection. This is very much along the lines of what Jeffrey was saying, where you're really getting to know that person and you want something uninterrupted. You want that kind of focus. This is why I don't like the idea of going to movies or going to spectacle events, because you're not speaking with each other. The focus is not on each other. You want focus interactive. You want to be interactive with the person and putting your focus on something else because, well, it's just easier. It takes the pressure off us talking. Well, your ability to talk with somebody in that first hour is what prevents you from committing to the wrong person for 6 months.
Yeah.
So get in there and be focused and make sure that your first date has more than one location, because each time you go to a new location, even though it's the same evening, it feels like a new conversation topics, a different energy. The way somebody acts in a coffee shop is very different from the way someone acts in a little bit more of an upscale restaurant, which is very different from the way somebody acts when you're back at his or her place.
Yeah.
So I like multiple locations on a first date, because it also really gets you to see if you enjoy spending time with a person in different locations and how they react. And it's a way to find out if you're more compatible. It also gives a sense that the two of you have been together longer than you have, which will allow people to, you know how they say that after the honeymoon phase is when the real person starts to show.
Correct.
Well, multiple locations on a first date will speed up that process and allow you to see a little bit more of the real person and not the mask that they think you want to see them in.
That's it.
Interesting. Yeah. So true.
Yeah, I vouch for that. The multiple location, the little mini dates on one date. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like chapters of a book.
Well,
Exactly.
you need to see them in different situations. You know, you don't want to see them in the same situation around the same people because you won't see them in different lights that way. So, yeah, you need to see them in different ways.
Because the way someone's going to act, if you go, let's say, to an animal shelter, and they're acting all cutesy with the animals and all nurturing, and, oh, they're so cute, they're so wonderful. Well, who's not going to like a person when they're around puppies and kittens? Take that person and take a tour in a furniture store. See what their tastes are. See if they have compatible tastes as you do. If you go to an art gallery and you can talk about the different kinds of artwork you will see a very different side of them than you saw at the animal shelter, and that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was funny. My brother was when he was getting ready to marry his first wife, and he says, I love it. She doesn't care if I throw my clothes on the floor. She throws hers on the floor too. And I said, okay, but who's going to pick them up? And he's like, oh. huh?
Yeah.
So it's little things in life sometimes.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
so what are some practical things that men and women can do to meet more singles? Because sometimes you want choices. Maybe you meet somebody and you're like, well, they're okay, but they're not quite what I'm looking for. So you want options. You want to meet more than one or two people. So what can they do to meet more singles, to have more choices, to find the right person?
Jeffrey, you want to take this
Yeah.
one first?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think I touched on it a little while ago as well. Like, just it's really about diversifying your activities, and there's a couple of factors, that I share with my clients around, around the ideas like of picking places, and actually, when I say pick places that have you feeling more alive, where you actually feel you're having fun and all these things. That's great. And also, there's another level of discernment to bring into this situation, because the next thing to look at too is like, okay, cool. Well, what's the ratio of men to women? If I want to go to if I'm a guy and I'm looking for a female partner to date, then yeah, going to environments that are 90% men are probably not the best place, from a dating perspective, right? So if I can find a good cross section, a Venn diagram of like, imagine on one side, things that make me come alive, and the other section, cross section is, good ratio of men to women, is another factor to consider, right? And similar to, so things like yoga classes, dance classes are amazing things. And the other thing is, what's the level of interaction with the people you're at? So like going to a movie screening of an independent movie, at a film club or something is great, but there's not much interaction happening, similar to Frank's, thing around the date, right? Like you want to be interacting with people, and that's how you're going to get to know people, how to get to meet people, how to get a feel for their flavor. And the other thing is, are you learning a skill? So that's why, like, dance class has always been one of the top things for anybody to go and learn, because you get both. You get the it's like a triple whammy of, you get to have fun, ideally, if you like dance, first and foremost. Second, you get to interact with the opposite sex on a constant basis. You're switching partners all the time, and you're learning a skill, right? And you are also learning a little bit about the leading following, the masculine, feminine energies. There's a huge kind of benefit to being able to play in those energies, and dance is one of the most one of the best ways to do that. And so I would say just really diversifying your activities. Any activity also where you're seeing the same people on a regular basis, and similar to Frank's thing around meeting somebody at work. It's through osmosis, through you see somebody over the first. If you see somebody, you take an 8-week course in whatever it is, and there's 50 people in the course, and it's a good gender balance of ratio, and you see the same people over the next, 8 weeks, cool, good chance you're going to, start to develop some affinity, some bonds, some connections with those people, both for friendships and possible dating. So I think these kind of factors, if your only method of meeting people is going to a loud bar on a Friday night, where you can't hear the other person talk literally, then probably you need to switch it up, right? So that's kind of my quick overview of really needing to just diversify and paying attention to what really makes sense here. Cool, maybe going to the to the rugby games on weekends is great, for that benefit. But if I want to meet women, I got to kind of add some other activities that are going to have some women involved. So yeah,
well, I think find activities and things that you enjoy, and then you could meet somebody that has shared interest.
Exactly. Yeah, totally, 100%.
All right.
Frank?
Actually, listening to Jeffrey talking about dance classes, of course, another thing is you can get nice up and close with somebody there.
Exactly.
You have to learn your boundaries at that point. But you're allowed to, if you went to a bar and you wouldn't be allowed to touch, a woman outside of the context of a dance, right? You wouldn't be touching a woman in the way that you would at a dance class, right? So there's that built-in context of, you get to be in physical proximity with women. Yeah. And, as long as you're doing it respectfully, you're totally, it's a nice bonus.
There are some bars you can dance at. been to
Oh
some
yeah,
where you
totally,
dance.
totally. I mean, like a more of just a straight up pub, where like there's no dancing and you just, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frank, you got anything to add?
Oh, yeah. I'll start off by saying that in order to decide where you're going to meet singles for dating, number one is make your love life a priority. And this is going to allow you to find where all the singles are at. As long as your love life is a priority, as long as you're making it a priority to meet someone to date, it's going to change the way you behave day to day. So if your love life is a priority, you're going to tell everybody that you know, I'd really like to meet someone to date. You're going to be open to whoever they suggest and offer you as a blind date, where someone sets you up with someone else. Yes, you may have some good blind dates, you may have some bad blind dates, but you're out there, you're dating. In terms of making it a priority, starting with, I'm interested in these things, so I'm going to go to events that cater to my interests. Now, that is good to get you out of the house. That is good to get you more social. But as Jeffrey pointed out, you have to be aware of the ratio there. If I'm interested in comic books or bottle cap collecting or some other hobby, and I go there and golly gee, there just aren't that many women here, well, yes, it got you out of the house, but that may not work. So the next strategy, think about the kind of person you want to date, whether you're a man or a woman. Think of the type of person you want to date and find out what they're interested in. And you go. If you want to be around a woman who is interested in, let's say, gardening and plants, look for seminars and social groups that cater to people who are interested in plants. Look for the local society that caters to a membership and see if you go there. Now, you may have a peripheral interest. You may not be completely interested in it, but it's a place to start. If you're interested in someone that likes gardening and plants, you can even go to the local hardware store that has a plants section, because the people working in there probably have an interest that you're seeking. Think about the type of person you want to date and look at who they have dated in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about who they have dated that is attracting them. Well, do you have some of those qualities or interests that you can develop? And when you look at that and you say, wow, but I'm not willing to do that. Well, if you're not willing to do that, then you got to change your parameters. If you want to date a woman who's only into bodybuilders, but you have no interest in going to the gym and changing your nutrition, well, something's got to give. Either you're going to have to change in order to match who you want to attract, or you're going to have to give up on the people that you want to attract because you're not willing to put in the work. Yeah. So you're going to have to resolve that personal hypocrisy. Sometimes we're dealing with people who have a deep-rooted fear of intimacy. So they make their standards incredibly high. When I work with my population of adult-aged virgins who are trying to get into the dating scene for the first time in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, that's one of the things they do. They have incredibly high standards, but as a means to keep people away when they don't really care about those particular standards. So that's where you start. It's not just about developing an interest in something and going forward, but you have to make your love life a priority. One of the things that I did when I began my journey many years ago, because I had just had such bad luck in choosing, I made bad choices, got stood up at my prom, lost my ex-fiancée to my best friend, just horrible experiences. So I says, I need to change this. I need to make my love life a priority. One of the things I took was ballroom dancing because I wanted to be at a wedding and know how to dance. And it took me 2 years just to learn some basic steps. And I finally went to a wedding. I asked 6 girls to dance. Every single one of them told me no. I had brought a date to that wedding, and she says, no, I don't feel comfortable dancing. And I said, fine, I'm going to go dance with someone else then. I finally found one woman, because she was the ex of a friend of mine, who was willing to dance with me. We hit the dance floor. I showed what I can do, and all 6 of those women, except for my date, unfortunately, had approached me and said, Frank, please ask me to dance again.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't something that I was comfortable doing, But because I made my love life and getting a girlfriend a priority, I was willing to do things that I hadn't done before, and it worked. It was a great transition. It was a great lifestyle. But that's the key. It's not just about, well, where you're going to go. You can meet people anywhere, but if you have a particular person in mind, a particular type in mind, find out what that type of person is into, and learn everything you can about that.
Okay. Yeah, interesting one. Okay, folks, we're going to round up the Rendezvous show. And Jeffrey, would you like to summarize? And then we'll hand over to Nikki to summarize.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, all of you, both Nikki and yourself and Frank as well. Just to really just to appreciate the opportunity to just kind of share my thoughts and my experiences with my clients, with you guys, and hopefully it was helpful to all the listeners that are listening here, whether it's live or on the replay. And it's just one of those things where I think love is one of those things we're always going to be it's going to be in our lives. The desire to be in a relationship, and if you're single right now and you're wanting to be in a relationship, just know that your next partner, if you want to be in a relationship, is already out there. They're out there living their life. Maybe they're in a relationship now, or maybe they're getting over a breakup. But either way, they're out there now, or maybe they're ready and available for you. But they're out there, and you just have to really do the work, right? I think it was Frank that was saying nothing comes easily without work, right? You have to do the work, nothing. And so if you feel kind of your skills in relationships or dating or socializing or whatever are not as strong, then reach out, get support. There's no shame at all, no weakness in reaching out for support. So whether it's through myself or through Frank or Nikki or anybody, that you feel a resonance with and you want to reach out to, just reach out for support, and then and get this area of life handled. There's no reason to struggle and suffer in alone and silently. So I would just say that, yeah. So if anyone wants, my best way to reach me myself is, my website, jeffreyplatts.com, or you can look me up on Facebook, Instagram. That's PLATTTS JEFFREY. And yeah, shoot me a message. You can follow me on either of those platforms, and I'd love to connect. Okay. But yeah, thank you again for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
No, and Jeffrey, I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to come and chat together with us. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Nikki, I believe you've got something special to talk about.
I always have something special for you, George.
Yeah, but just, Nikki, try and keep it down to about 2 minutes, eh?
I can do that. All right. Okay. Well, we've actually got a couple gifts for the listeners. And I want to thank Frank and Jeffrey for being with us today. And I hope we answered all your questions, George. And on my website, if you go to readyforloveradio.com/online dating on fame, we've got links to several free ebooks for the listeners. And I'll put the link in the Fame group under the promo for today's show. Frank is giving away 2 ebooks, one for men and one for women. And they're over 500 pages apiece. Okay. Good information for both workbooks and ebooks with lots of content for each one. And like I said, one's for men, one's for women. I've also got a free ebook that I'm giving away, and we've got links to all 3 of them on that page. And if you forget the full link, just go to readyforloveradio.com. You can't miss the link for it. And lots of information on there. The ebook that I'm giving away is to explain about love coaching and what it is and how it can benefit you. So lots of good information for people that aren't familiar with what relationship coaching is all about. So we're giving both of those away. So I will just invite people to take a look at that and take a look at it. Also, definitely check it out. What I did with the ebooks that Frank has given away, I've got a link that will take you directly to each one of those, and you need a code in order to get those for free. I've got the code in there with that. So click on the link and get the code for each one. One is I'm a Man, That's My Job, coaching ebook for men. And the other is I'm a Woman, It's My Time. That's also a coaching ebook. And anybody that listens to my show knows I'm all about empowering people and about learning to love and accept and respect yourself. So definitely take a look at all that information. Great stuff. Lots of free information for everybody. And like I said, readyforloveradio.com is where you'll find all that information.
Okay. Well, Frank, I want to say a personal thank you to you for making the time and taking the time to come and chat with us, especially being a Sunday morning. I'm sure you had to get up early to do this.
It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to working with you all again.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do a follow-up show on this one, eh? Nikki, what do you say?
Actually, too, let me tell the listeners that I've invited Frank and Jeffrey to come on my Thursday night show in the month of October. So keep an eye out. I'll be posting promos for those also. Okay. And I'll be having each one of them on individually for a full hour.
Oh, brilliant. All right.
Aha.
Yeah, interesting one. And, of course, Nikki will share those programs together with me to be repeated here on Fame Music Radio as well. So
I certainly will.
Yeah, all of you guys out there that have been listening, I want to say thank you for listening, and I hope you found the discussion interesting, all about dating and dating sites. And if you have any more questions, well, why not send them to Nikki at
readyforloveradio@gmail.com.
Great. And then whatever we haven't answered question-wise here, maybe Nikki will be able to answer your questions on her show on New Visions Radio as well. Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. Nikki, once again, thank you for arranging this. It's been most interesting and enlightening. And as I say, I hope the listeners out there learnt a lot this evening. So from the Rendezvous Show, I want to say thank you to everybody. And coming up for you right after the show is going to be a fuller program with yours truly, playing some real awesome music. And then a bit later on, we will have the Pack Show, a repeat of the Pack Show from Friday night. So all of you guys out there, have a wonderful Sunday, Monday, wherever you are, and a super week ahead. Cheers for now.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquests, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar. The Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Make your first
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, 'cause Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
The best time of her life. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships. Visit franktalks.com.